Welcome to the Deals Behind the Money. I'm Mary Kathleen Flynn, and I'm here with Drew Lipsher from Greycroft Partners, and we're talking about the deal-making opportunities for media. I hate to sound really depressed, but every time I look around, there are layoffs from another media company. It seems like a very bad time. Can you put it in perspective for us? You've been around media for a long time.
I'm not sure I can put it in perspective, but I think I might be able to give it some context. Media as a broad category and then various categories within media are under a tremendous amount of pressure. You look at the newspaper sector in particular, and I think for a lot of people it's hard to imagine that newspapers in a printed format are going to be around 5 years from now. Television is under pressure, traditional video broadcasting, for the first time in a long time, you're hearing rumblings that box office at theatrical exhibitors are down or flat. Music industry continues to be an industry under siege for its traditional form of distribution, which is retail. So the media industry generally remains, at the focal point of a lot of what's going on in the digital media world. And the more advanced the digital media gets and the more inroads that new companies and entrepreneurs make on the online side, the more pressure it puts on the traditional media companies to come up with new, innovative ways to market, promote, sell their content. And what it reminds us on a daily basis with layoffs, with the earnings reports and some of the numbers that we're seeing coming out of the major media companies is that model continues to be under pressure. And looking for innovative solutions and looking for a way to play in the online world is a critical part of any of the traditional media company strategies going forward.
Well, so in a way, that would be a great time for the kinds of companies that Greycroft backs, because you're talking about digital media startups. So what are the opportunities there?
Well, it is a great time for a lot of young companies focusing on digital media. The biggest challenge is how do you build a company that's a large enough scale so that it's attractive to the major media companies. And I think some of the new companies and new opportunities that we're seeing really sort of fall into two categories. One are some of those companies that have the ability to really build scale, and scale can be revenue, scale can be audience, scale can be consumption. There are lots of different ways to look at scale. And others are companies that are building sort of pieces of the services side of the media business that are going to help drive the scale. So lots of companies in the advertising sector generally that are looking at advertising metrics. How do you measure brand lift? How do you measure consumer engagement? Typical measurement tools that brand advertisers are going to look for as they seek to put more and more dollars to work in an online medium over time.
And how do you find, or how do you measure value in the online world? And is there value for original content in the online world?
Well, I think it's two different questions. From an advertiser's perspective, how do you measure value? I think over time, the reach and frequency equivalents will be developed online. So raw numbers, specific targeted demographics, brand lift, intent to purchase kinds of metrics, those are all very measurable things. And as you're able to amass a large enough audience as a brand advertiser, you should be able to, in theory, put together a campaign that will return you data that suggests whether or not your campaign was successful. As for original content, I think it's a very different question. And while advertising in many ways can be argued, you can argue it is original content. I think that original content online as a form of media is going to take on a different set of standards and a different set of criteria from sort of that traditional media product, whether it's television or film.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much, Drew Lipsher. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks,
from Greycroft Partners. And thank you for watching Behind the Money. I'm Mary Kathleen Flynn.